If you guys want some gamer subs, make sure to use code GM for 10% off. Thanks. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Gminers here, and in this video, I wanted to go over which stats you should be going for on each class with the new resilience changes. I've been getting a bunch of comments on different videos and in my stream of people asking if they should get brand new armor sets, and if so, what should they be going for on each class. So I wanted to make a video that everybody could just easily use, but before we get into things, if this video does end up helping you out, don't forget to drop a like and sub down below. Subbing is completely free, it helps me out a ton, guys, and you can always change your mind later. Just for a quick PSA for anyone who is coming back later in the season or just isn't aware, resilience in PvE used to only provide you with around 13% more shield capacity. Since your shields don't make up your entire health pool, because we have health and shields, this 13% increase was really only like an 8% increase in your total health. That was for tier 10, so definitely not worth running resilience at all. Now, resilience has been updated to provide damage resistance for each tier. On screen now are the tiers, and you can see that the higher you go, the more resistance you get out per tier. This goes up to a max of 40%, which is insane. That's not me over exaggerating either. Protective Light, which used to be a 50% resistance, was nerfed into the ground because of how strong it was, and now at tier 10, you pretty much have that at all times. So the question most people have is, should I switch to a resilience build? And the answer is 100% yes. I would say, in general, if you are on Titan, you should start prioritizing resilience and recovery now. For most players, this will mean 100 resilience and then as much recovery as you can after that. But getting both to 100 is possible, which I did break down in my previous video, along with the best place to farm high stat armor. If you are on Warlock, you should also prioritize resilience and recovery. Once again, this will mean 100 resilience and then as much recov as possible. Since the cooldown of Warlock Rifts are tied to the recovery stat, I figure a lot of people will probably wonder why I suggest prioritizing resilience over recovery here. And the reason is that the cooldown of Rifts are very linear. These are the total cooldowns in seconds per each tier. The higher the tier, the less time it takes to get your Rift back. In the graph, you can easily see that the first 5 to 6 tiers, you are cutting your timer in half, which is about an entire minute less, and then the last few tiers only end up lowering it another 20 seconds. So you get the largest benefit from the first couple of tiers. Even if this isn't maxed out, your Rift cooldown won't really suffer. And then lastly, if you are on Hunter, I tend to prioritize resilience and then mobility. This puts you at a big disadvantage compared to Warlocks and Titans, because if you want a decent cooldown on your dodge, you either lose tankiness or the ability to regen faster. Generally speaking though, there are a few options that provide health regen on dodge, like Worm Husk and Graviton Forfeit if needed, and in the endgame, where stats really start to matter, most hunters will be on Tether, so they will also have Invis to rely on. Similar to the Rift cooldown, you can see that you also get the most benefit from the first 5 to 6 tiers, so that also provides an option to go for something like 100 resilience and then close to 50 mobility and 50 recovery and still get decent benefits. On top of this, Powerful Friends is an easy to use mod to boost mobility by 20 points, making this much more obtainable. The reason that I am constantly going for 100 resilience instead of 100 recovery is because of two major factors. First is the fact that in general, staying alive is much more important than having faster health regen, and the second reason is because of the benefits for max resilience versus those of max recovery. This right here, once again, is the plot for damage resistance provided per tier when using resilience. The first 4 tiers only provide 1% per tier, which is useless. Then going from 4 up to 7 for another 30 stat points gets you to 20% resistance, which is good, but you can then double this for only 30 more stat points at tier 10. Realistically, around 20% is where you will consistently notice a difference in your health, and if you are already at tier 7, you might as well make it to tier 10 to double the benefit. With these resilience changes, we also got a pretty big nerf to damage reduction mods like Concussive Dampener and everything else that goes on your chest. These used to provide 25% reduction at 1 copy, and then 2 copies would give you 40%. Now they are at 15% at 1 copy and 25% at 2. So just by using these alone, you are going to feel way squishier than you would before, which makes sense because they were nerfed. To get back to that 40%, because of how resistance stacking works, you need tier 7 resilience combined with 2 of these mods. So once again, just to get back to the old system, it is a heavy investment, so you might as well go all in. Recovery, on the other hand, does follow a very similar pattern. You can see that the higher the tier we have, the less time it takes for us to completely regen health. However, in my opinion, even though we do get increased benefits per tier, going from 0 to 100 recovery is only a total decrease in regen time of 3 seconds. So we aren't getting any crazy benefit here. As I mentioned, with limited revives, it is always better to stay alive more often and take a few seconds extra to recover. And realistically, with higher resilience, you won't have to stop as often to recover health. For all classes, I also recommend going for discipline in the bottom bucket of stats. This makes getting the stats you want in the top bucket much easier, which I also explained in my previous video. Intellect is kind of in a bad spot right now. Cooldowns in PvE are extremely long and you get a ton of energy back just from damaging enemies, so that kind of bypasses the cooldown a lot. And for strength, while this can be good, most of the time melee builds in the game that are good are pretty self-sufficient and also bypass the cooldowns. I tend to just focus on discipline, and whatever I get for strength and intellect is fine because it isn't worth putting any mods into, so those stats will never be super large. That is everything you should be going for in terms of stats right now for PvE, specifically with the end game in mind. Also, keep in mind that the resilience changes could be nerfed or reverted, so don't just ditch old armor sets because Bungie are most likely to make that change with a new seasonal hotfix, which will only give you 2 weeks to grind for an entire new armor set. If you guys have any other questions, let me know in the comments below or in my Discord. That's all for this video. As always, have a good one. Peace.